And welcome back, our listeners and viewers, to the deep, dark depths of the Red Rabbit Hole. And today we've been burrowing around again, and we found our way into a weird warren. And I've recently, Nicky, I don't know how you feel about this, I've been calling these Binge and Burrows. When we
Yeah,
find something in this is in fact this is all of the things. It's a local interest thing for us. It's also there's a documentary out at the moment and a podcast, and there's been a few articles, and it's quite a hot topic at the moment. So today we're going to be talking about the Jesus Army, also I think now known as the Jesus Army cult. So Nicky, you're here. Hello.
Hello. Of course I'm here. I'm always here.
How are you?
Always in the dark depths of the red rabbit hole, lurking around,
Do
waiting for
you
my
leave
time.
anymore? Do you
No.
get any sun on your skin anymore? Or
Do
you
I look
just
like I get
stay
some
down
sun
here?
on my
Yeah,
skin?
you don't. Your
I look like
lighting's not kind.
no, I look like Casper the Friendly Ghost
You
most
do.
of the time.
You do. You need to get a bit more bronzer.
Ugh,
That's what I've done.
who can be asked these days?
And this is why I don't do the intros, because what I probably should have said is, hello, I'm Lisa Shepherd. I'm a comedian and therapist. And with me today is, of course, Nicky Peacock, also known as N V Peacock, author extraordinaire.
Yeah, no,
And
well, with that.
magician and
I'm
gymnast
not a
and
magician.
and chef and connoisseur and true crime
Sommelier.
yeah interest, cult expert, Jeopardy topic,
Okay.
true crime
Serial
probably,
killer
and
wannabe.
thriller fiction. Yeah, serial
Yeah.
killers, Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
In fact. And we're not alone today. We have another special guest down. We've dragged somebody else down into the depths. He came semi-willingly. We're joined
That's what they
by
all say.
Matt today, who is an actor and a director and a drinker, but not always in that particular order. And he's joined us today because we're going to be talking about the Jesus Army, as I said, and they were based in Northampton. So it's kind of why it's a local interest for us. We're based in Northamptonshire, and Matt was living in very close proximity to one of the Jesus Army homes when they were active for several years, many years. So yes, that's what we're going to have a little talk about today, and Matt's going to tell us about his experience. So before we start, best just give a little bit of a rundown of who the Jesus Army are, for anyone who hasn't heard of them or were. So they were officially known as the Jesus Fellowship Church and were founded in 1969 by former Baptist pastor Noel Stanton in Northamptonshire. So they started in Bugbrook, I believe, in that sort of late 60s, early 70s, people kind of feeling a little bit lost, looking for maybe searching for faith or searching for somewhere to be, somewhere to belong, as we've talked about on our cult episode before. So do check that out if you want to know a bit more about cults. And it was kind of a bit of a merging of Christianity, but alongside kind of communal living, that kind of living off the land, supporting one another, being a little bit kind of self-supported as well. They had a lot of the work and things were distributed amongst the members. And sort of by the 1980s, they had a range of homes and thousands of members right across the UK. So they're quite a big group. They were in all, they're all. If you have a look online, you can find a map, and they were right across the UK. They existed with what was known as the common purse. So whenever you joined, you would give all of your things, I think, including clothes and like everything. Like full everything handed over into the communal purse. So if you were on, I think there was communal
Nobody
Nickies.
touching my clothes.
No, there was a community knicker box. A Nicky box, we'll call it after you. And you just went in and you picked your Nickies out there. No, you didn't. You didn't. But I don't think so. But I think you did. I think there was a sense that particularly some of the people I've heard talking about it who were children and in the Jesus Army when they were children, they had to, like, all their toys were taken away. They weren't allowed to have any toys anymore. So they weren't allowed any kind of worldly belongings. At its peak, the Jesus Fellowship held tens of millions of pounds in assets, including farms, businesses, and over 60 communal homes, which was where the members would live. There was a hierarchy, quite a strong cult dynamic. So we had our leader, Noel, at the head of things, born on Christmas Day, actually, interestingly.
Mm.
That's why it's
So,
called Noel.
so the leader wasn't Jesus then?
Well, yeah, obviously, but through Noel Stanton, as they like to say. It's all these leaders like to say, I speak the word of Jesus.
Okay, if he says so.
But he had his elders and he'd put his elders into the homes, and the elders would kind of uphold all the rules. And the rules were about sort of, there was a celibacy rule. So you weren't supposed to be having any relations with anybody. They would separate families out. Very, very standard kind of cultish behavior. So they'd often separate children away from adults and put them into, they'd have children kind of sleeping in dorms with other members. And I think something they're quite well known for in Northampton is that they would help people who were homeless, drug addicts, people who maybe wouldn't have anywhere else to go. They would take in everyone. I think there was even a point where there was somebody who had been accused of murdering their family, and the Jesus Army said they would take him in. That was, I think they denied that later on and said that they said maybe once he'd served his sentence, he could come back or something. But apparently, when he was kind of on the run, they took him in for a bit. And then
Yeah.
he'd be sleeping in dorms with children,
Oh no.
separated from their family. Anyone who tried to leave, they would leave penniless and with nothing. And after Noel Stanton's death in 2009, and there is a rebranding actually. I can't remember when the rebranding was. It was about the 90s, but they rebranded to the Jesus Army at some point, and then
Okay.
they started wearing. I don't know if I mean I remember them, and I remember seeing them around Northampton. But the green and blue army print camo jumpers with Jesus Army across the back and a big red cross on it, quite powerful imagery. And then so he died in 2009, just of old age, unfortunately. Got away with lots and didn't really face any music or anything for it. And then the church began to decline, and it was with a lot of those allegations that were coming out. So
Okay.
more and more was coming out about the church. And then in 2017,
Oh,
under
let's
sort
not
of,
ruin it. Let's not go too far. Let's
oh, I was just
wind
giving a
back a bit.
rundown.
No,
I was
let's
just giving a rundown, and then we
no,
thought we
you've
could
like
discuss it.
steamed ahead. There was so much to
I'm
talk about.
steaming.
You're steaming. Matt, was she always this bad when you tried to direct her?
Yeah, yeah, I was. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was if I turned up.
yeah, you'd let Lisa talk things through,
Talk things through, bless you.
and then you'd say, right, okay, let's try it a different way. So no, not at all. No, Lisa was a joy to direct and very constructive.
Okay, and we'll end it there, guys. So we'll finish
Well,
there. Thanks for joining us.
well, Matt, why don't you
Hi.
tell us a little bit about, your kind of, I suppose, your first kind of experience with the Jesus Army then?
Well, actually, yeah, that actually happened before I moved to Northampton. So I was grew up in Shropshire, and my mum's cousin was involved in the Jesus Army. So this would have been around about the late 80s, I think, maybe around about 89, 90, something like that. And my younger brother, who was more into church and religion than me, and quite active in the Shropshire, just the local church kind of thing. He'd been invited to go away to one of these big events that I don't know if you saw the BBC documentary, but they had these big weekend gatherings in tents and halls and things. And Adrian went across, and I remember at the time my nan being quite fearful that Adrian was going to get recruited by the Jesus Army. My nan lived in Northampton, so she'd moved here after the Second World War, or during the Second World War actually. Met her husband, stayed. So she'd obviously, as a lot of Northampton residents, I guess, at the time, would have been aware of the Jesus Armies and fellowships at origins in the 70s in Bugbrook, and then it gradually expanding through Northampton. And I guess that some of the stories that came out later about the kind of people that they were looking to recruit, I think she was genuinely concerned that my brother, who would have been in his late teens, I think, by then, might be being seen as a potential to be brought into the family, etc. But it didn't. He had a nice time apparently, but didn't really express any interest in joining them. And then my mum's cousin and a few of the others drove him back down, and we had a bit of a chat in the lounge at the house we were living in. And they asked me, was I particularly religious? And I said, oh no, not really, just kind of was kind of sitting on the fence. And I wasn't really. I was pretty convinced by then I was an atheist, but just didn't really want to offend my mum's cousin, so I just kind of left it hanging that I was probably more agnostic kind of thing. So that was that really. We didn't really hear that much more about it until I then ended up in Northampton about 20 years later when I moved here, and ended up living on a street about 50 yards away from where they had one of their fellowship houses from about 2011 onwards. So you'd see there'd always be one of their vans parked outside, whopping great minibus things. The house was called Abiding Rock, so nice Christian kind of nice Christian name there, kind of thing for the house. And every morning, the what I presume were the elders that looked after the house would drive off the residents to where they were going to work, because again in this documentary it came out that they owned quite a few different businesses that they'd have people working in, and then in the evening they'd ferry them all back again. And at the time it was always the same two guys that were doing the driving, so you didn't really think anything of it. But again, with the stories that have emerged, it obviously came across it was quite a patriarchal society there. The men were doing a lot of the things, the ladies weren't allowed to do certain things, and perhaps this fell under those kind of strictures that men only behind the wheel in this instance. So it's that was kind of the nearest thing I came to dealing with them, other than seeing, as Lisa just mentioned, you'd see them in town a lot. They did up the old cinema that was in the town centre and rebranded that as the Jesus Centre. So if you're out at the weekend quite late, it would often be open, offering cups of tea to people if it was cold and wet, or you're just looking after anyone that walked by and wanted a bit of a chat and a biscuit potentially. But yeah, they were very present, certainly during like the late 90s and noughties and the teens in the town and wider. And then I guess the next experience that I had goes back to the early one I was just talking about, with my first interaction with them, because this cousin of my mum's got kicked out of the Jesus Army, and the whole excommunication thing brought down on him. Now, I don't know the details, but from what I've been told from within the family is that apparently, and he's no longer with us, sadly, was that he formed a relationship with a lady there, which was frowned upon, if not banned outright. And he got kicked out. Now, not only did he get kicked out, but they cut off all contact with him. So he'd been with them for a long time, since the late 80s. So for about 20 years, to have all of that then cut off and withdrawn from you, and it broke him. It absolutely broke him. And he died during the COVID time. I don't think it was COVID related, but it was around then. And yeah, he'd had a couple of nervous breakdowns and was a shell of the person that he was previously.
That's awful, because it's like I guess it's like leaving prison or the army or a mental institution. You get kind of institutionalized, so you follow a set of rules, and they sound like they had like a very strict set of rules going on. And then to suddenly be kind of, I suppose, thrown out and shunned like that would have been incredibly jarring psychologically.
But absolutely, and if that's all you've known for the past 20 years, that's where you'll have formed friendships, platonic friendships, as well
and a
as
key
romantic
20
ones.
years as well, because you said he was quite young, so he would have, that's like a key socialization time as
Well,
well.
sorry, he would have been probably in the late 80s, probably say the same age of my mum was, kind of probably in his late 40s by then, kind of thing.
Oh, okay,
So
not too.
it was my brother that was younger that
Mm.
that we were a little bit concerned about,
Who
but my
narrowly
mum's
avoided
cousin.
recruitment, maybe.
I
Yeah, absolutely,
I don't
absolutely.
understand how they kind of, I suppose, got shoved under the carpet regarding their cultish behavior, because everything that both of you have said so far to me, I mean, I know very little. I remember the tea and toast bus in Corby, and I just thought they were kind of kindly churchgoers. I didn't know any of this. I didn't think I knew at some point that they would take people in, and but I didn't think there was a lot of money involved, because they were taking in people that had nowhere else to go. And if they'd had some, money, they'd have had somewhere else to go.
Well, I think that was certainly part of it. But they were taking in people who were, successful in their personal lives. I mean, Mum's cousin, he was a teacher before he went in, and he might well still have been a teacher during his time there. But again, as Lisa mentioned earlier, you sell your house, you pool your resources, it all goes into the pot. But there are stories of families going in there, people, working parents selling their houses, moving from Kent, I think one of the stories was that came up in the BBC documentary. They sold up everything, moved in, and were quite happy for a long time until it emerged that these abuse stories were coming out, and their young daughter had been exposed to that.
They
But again,
ran
as you
lots
say,
of businesses, didn't
yeah,
they?
Did
So
they?
they had a doctor's surgery, they
yeah.
had a building business, and you can make a lot of money when you don't have any labor costs.
I think they said it was 58 million they were turning over at one point,
Jeez.
or the
Yeah, they
value of
were.
their businesses was about 58 million.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
huge.
And I think they used to pay, some of their employees would earn about 3 grand a year. That would be
Right.
like their salary for a year. So that's like basically they're not paying any labor costs at all. And there was a story in, I think it's one of the newspaper, it might have been in Milton Keynes in one of the papers, but there's tracking a member. So like Matt was saying, somebody gets picked up in the morning, but he'd go off into the morning into a job in Milton Keynes. He'd work all day long. Then he'd go and do something else. He'd go and like basically work another shift, maybe in the house or doing something else. Then he'd go to bed for maybe a few hours, get up and do it again.
Wow.
So not only
Yeah.
did they have cheap labor, they had very hard working labor as well, doing
Mm.
making them lots of money.
But I think because it was completely closed off and that very insular looking, and they didn't really do much in terms of communication with the outside world. And I guess maybe that was part of the conditions of you joining, was that you didn't really talk to anyone on the outside. So all the stuff that was going on, if people knew about it, it was quite easy for them to keep it self-contained. It would take the actions of an individual going outside of the community, going to the police, to get anything done. And again, you saw that with the story of the girl and her father who did go to the police and reported something, and the perpetrator got convicted and got jailed for not very long, but then was reintegrated back into the community, almost as if nothing had happened. And you think, well, my goodness, what kind of message does that send to people that would have known what was going on, or at least had their suspicions that people like this are brought back in and forgiven, with inverted commas.
And
What's
it's,
the
well, I
sorry,
was going to
you go.
say, and it's quite, I've only just started really thinking about this, but it's quite an aggressive name as well, Jesus Army. It's not like the cult of, lily flowers or something, that's
Oh, yeah, no.
it's kind of aggressive. So I'm not even sure how, again, that they kind of flew under the radar for so long.
That was part of the marketing campaign that Noel Stanton came up with in the 80s. I think, evangelicalism had dropped off a bit and he felt like he needed to go to war, and he would be out seeking young men who felt that they had something to say, were maybe wanted to make a change, a little bit of aggression, maybe playing on that a bit. So maybe I think your nan was absolutely spot on, Matt, to be worried.
Yes, yeah,
Because that's
yeah,
exactly who they
absolutely,
were
yeah,
targeting, was young,
yeah,
potentially disillusioned young men
yeah. And
who
my
wanted.
brother is a vulnerable person. yeah, absolutely. So we were all relieved when he returned to the fold, kind of thing. So
And that actually
yeah,
goes against most cults, doesn't it? Because most cults actually target young women and children, because that lies the next generation of the cult members, doesn't it?
yeah.
I think, well, when it came out, so am I allowed to continue with what I was saying earlier,
Yes,
Nikki?
yes,
Or
go now.
you're
Now we've
going
had
to
a bit
let
of
me
a
go on
Pick
discussion
it up
now?
in
about it.
2017. Yes.
So when it did get disbanded in 2017, and then it was dissolved in 2020, then there was a redress scheme for all of the victims of what happened. And when they started looking, they thought maybe a few would come forward, and then it was hundreds and hundreds of people were coming forward, mainly women and children who'd been subject to abuse. I think there's a really awful statistic somewhere about 1 in 6 children
Yeah.
who were involved were sexually abused. I think Noel was involved, and that some of the elders were involved, or at least if they weren't involved, they were covering it up. They weren't letting the
Absolutely. Yeah.
they weren't letting anything out. And then, so just talking to the figures, because this astounded me, they were worth 53 million when they dissolved in 2020, and out of the redress scheme, people got about 12,000 each.
Oh God.
Maybe 600 people got about £12,000 each,
Wow.
and they were worth 53 million. So where's the rest of it? Where's the rest of that money gone? I suppose they did all the properties. But yeah, but they would have sold all the properties. So yeah, but they really, it's pitiful in terms of what people, and like you were saying about people, like you were saying about your mum's cousin, Matt, like people who left, it was everything to them. And it's hard to even know that you've been a victim of something. They're not
Yeah.
even recognizing what happened to them as a bad thing that happened, and they are quite still fondly thought about. I think this all revealing what's coming out now is going to become as quite a surprise for a lot of people, because it did feel like, well, they took in people who were homeless and people who were struggling and vulnerable, and they took everybody under their wing. And I remember, Matt, one of your old housemates, telling me that before they drove the big colourful van out, they used to go and put in all the wing mirrors on the cars to make sure that nobody got clipped on the way out. And cults are not entirely made up of bad people, are they? There's good people.
No, absolutely.
Nobody, like Will said on that episode, Nikki, no one joins a cult. No one willingly joins a cult. They join a group of like-minded people.
Well, I think this is the just to bring it back, just for me to speak again on regarding my mum's cousin. He would have absolutely embraced it wholeheartedly because he was a religious person. He would have, and when I met him that time in Shropshire, he was, full of joy, full of, really friendly, really happy. He looked really happy. He looked really content. And this is the thing that destroyed him, I think, was to be so happy, to be so surrounded by people and love, and your beliefs in that as a Christian, as he was, to then have that taken away, and to then have no means of being in contact with all the friends that you've built up over that period of time, to be completely cut off. As I say, he had at least 2 mental breakdowns. Absolutely. And I remember my mum speaking to me about it and saying he's just not the same as he was, because he'd had his whole life wrenched apart. And after he did pass, my aunt, his sister, got a telephone call from someone representing the Jesus Army, offering their commiserations and sympathy, and they got given fairly short shrift because they were absolutely the ones that had broken him and essentially driven him to an early grave. So you take your foe's sympathy, and stick you down a rabbit hole.
Exactly.
Not our rabbit hole,
Not
though.
this
Not
one.
your rabbit hole.
Not
No, no,
welcome
no.
here. Sorry.
We're already crammed with stuff already.
Weird enough. Yeah.
Too
I
many.
think
Yeah.
on the documentary, there's someone who speaks who was formerly an elder and seemed, is absolutely understanding of what has happened and what has occurred and the wrong that has been done. But he gets quite emotional talking about it because you
Yeah.
can hear how much he still loved it. And I think there are people who, when they disbanded and were no more, there are still people who, oh, if they opened up tomorrow, I'd rejoin
Absolutely.
straight
No.
away. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of cults, and
Mhm.
if you were to play top trumps in cults, I mean, to me the worst one I guess is the Jim Jones lot, because I mean he
Mm.
killed so many people. But then you got those the Moonies. Is it the Moonies that made you marry
Yeah.
strangers? I mean, they were pretty life destroying, but
And you got the ones Waco, that kind of thing.
Waco, yep, the
Mm.
kind of those that are sort of off the grid people that are
Mm.
armed to the teeth.
But I think this goes back to what you were saying earlier, Nikki. But how did people get away with it? Well, because they just look like normal middle class suburban Christian folk that you would see down the church, and were perhaps a bit more passionate about it than your average churchgoer in terms of the praising and the happy and the joy and the clapping and all that kind of thing. But there was,
The tongues.
yes,
Speaking in
No, they
tongues.
didn't,
it
did
just wouldn't
they?
They
appear
did.
like a cult, would it?
No.
It would just be, oh, they're just very enthusiastic. And so that's probably why it did get it did appear to be just kind of not swept under the carpet, but below the carpet, because it was happening in front of everyone's eyes, but you just couldn't really see it for just other than just being a bit, okay, that kind of Christian kind of thing.
If the abuse is being covered up by the
Oh,
higher
absolutely,
members
absolutely,
and the
100%.
houses,
Yeah, yeah,
everything's
yeah,
being
yeah,
covered
yeah,
up. So it
yeah.
is, and it kind of is in plain sight because, it's up the road. It's just a house up the road. But I mean, we've talked about this before, Nikki. You don't know about your neighbours, really. You don't really know what's happening in the house next door, do you? So yeah, it's kind of in plain sight, but I think it's quite easy. And we talked about this on the Cole episode, and I think we've talked about this a few times actually. People desperately need to feel like they belong somewhere. They need a community of people. We are not beings that are built to be alone and live alone and not be connected to others.
Mm,
And what does being homeless or being addicted to drugs, or I think there was in the documentary there's a single mum who talks quite openly, and she went there with her three children because this was I think it was the 80s, and she was very much shunned for being a single mum.
mm.
So she was feeling excluded from society, and she walked into this church and people smiled at her and made her feel welcome. And the music, they came out of the late 60s, early 70s hippie movement. So there was lots of
Mm.
singing and music, and you can still listen on Spotify if you would like to. There is a band.
The Jesus Army
Called
playlist.
Jesus Army. You can listen to them. I was listening earlier purely for research purposes. It's quite catchy. I'll give it that. It is quite catchy.
Or earworms.
Jesus people, loving people. It wasn't like that because I might get sued for that, I reckon. It was, but and then people, when you feel alone, you get off it, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because ultimately that's how cults work. So they draw you in
Mm.
because you feel like you want to be part of a community, and then actually one of the first things they will set about doing is separating you from the people closest to you.
Yeah.
So moving people to live in separate, and we see that. I've heard about that in so many of the cult things that we've looked at, where the children were living in, dorms with others. They weren't staying with their parents where they should be. And I think, is it Philippa in the documentary talks about after the incident where her and her father had reported the sexual abuse of her friend, and the person responsible had been jailed, she was then moved out to one of the houses. So she was
Yeah.
moved away from her family. In probably so it couldn't happen again. But it's funny, isn't it? Like you get this sense of belonging to a group, but within that group, you get separated from the people closest to you who care the most about you, so that we can help control you.
I feel like there should be a book, like almost like a children's book, you know, with pictures and that, saying, "Are you in a cult?" Question mark. And then each page is, "Were you taken from your family?" And there's like kids, you know, getting dragged away. You know, "Are you being fed gruel?"
This reading material's never going to make it into the cult. That's the thing, isn't it? We can have a children's book on many, many subjects, which we do. I wouldn't be surprised if there probably is a children's book, or there's got to have been work with. Well, I read a brilliant book by one of my favorite psychotherapists who worked with the children of Waco. So after some of the children of Waco had been released, he was based at the center that they took those children to and was kind of doing trauma work with them. And he said that they would all walk together. That was one of the things he'd noticed about them. They'd all kind of stick together, and there were boy-girl separations, and they'd maintain that themselves individually. Like the way they behaved was not like other children that he'd met in his time. Fascinating things, cults.
I know.
Literally, we should call this the cult next door. This episode can be called the cult next door.
Yeah, let's do that.
It is, isn't it? It is. I had a little encounter with them as well. I got pulled in by free food. So like Matt was saying about the free cups of tea and the free food, I think I was at some sort of festival or event or something, and it's on the race course in Northampton, which is a big old park area, got its own reputation for various things if you look it up. But there are houses back onto there and gardens. So there must have had one of their fellowship houses on the garden. Wow. They were saying free burgers, free hot dogs, come this way. So I was quite a bit younger then and just thought, oh yeah, free burgers, great. And we walked in and had our hot dogs and our free burgers, and we were with somebody who uses a wheelchair and has disabilities, and that's quite clear. And they were all over that person. They would not leave them alone. They were like talking to them, wanting to know where they came from, wanting to know everything about their life. And I think my feeling at the time, and rightly or wrongly so, I don't know, I just think they saw pound signs come up the minute they saw them, because they just thought, well, disability money, vulnerability, you can come and join us and we'll get all your disability money to put into a pot, and we'll get other people to look after you, and we won't pay them and you won't get good quality care, but you'll come and join us. So I went the rest of my burger in my mouth and hightailed it out of there.
You ate Jesus burger.
It was, yeah. I ate the forbidden burger.
You ate of his body.
Good job. Oh, I almost said hot dog then, but I'm glad.
I'm glad
I stuck to burger.
It's not that kind of podcast.
But yeah, that was my own little encounter. And then Nicky, do you remember when we were? I think it was when we were doing the book. Surviving that project, and I'm sure did we walk past the church or something, and then we said, were they singing? Maybe there was singing or a chant, but for some reason we made up "We are the Satan army, do what you want."
Yeah, that sounds like us.
Because I think we were just thinking about the opposite. I think we had bad vibes straight away. Yeah. We just decided there needed to be an opposition to the Jesus army.
Every yin needs a yang, doesn't it, to balance out the universe? That's what I truly believe. And if I have to be that yang, I will be that yang.
You know, an aspect of them that I found out from the documentaries that we haven't talked about yet that I think is really interesting is that you would be given a name. So once you remember the group, have you seen that, Matt? You would be given a name reflective of your part in there. So I think probably things like servitude, or I can't remember some of them. The one that sticks in, gets worse, Nicky. The one that sticks in my mind is a young woman who I think had joined them in a time of her youth, and I think she had admittedly said, she'd had trouble with drugs and was kind of a bit of adrift at the time that she found them, and she joined the church, and I think she kind of described herself as being a bit of a rebel at the time, and then her church name was Submission.
No.
It's horrible, isn't it?
Oh, that's horrible. Hideous.
Mm.
That's very much like that other cult, the the place in, oh God, is it NY NX Nick? Oh, I've forgotten who they are. The ones that branded all those
Nix?
women that in the
Oh gosh,
States. Do you
yeah.
remember
I can't
that
remember what they're
one?
called though now.
Because they had some famous actors and actresses and that were part of the cult.
Oh, well, no, the Tom thingy one.
No, no,
No,
that's
the
Scientology.
Scientologists.
Scientologists,
Not
That's
sorry.
them.
completely different.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Okay.
like
Probably best to say it definitely wasn't them before
no,
they sue everybody into
Yeah.
oblivion. So,
no, it wasn't them because they're the L. Ron Hubbard people, aren't
yeah,
they?
Oh
The
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was another kind of Hollywood cult, and it was the actress that was in Smallville that played the kind of sidekick in Smallville, and she was quite well known. Allison something, Allison maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I can
Allison
only think of
Mackey.
Lois Lane now.
No, she didn't play because Lois Lane wasn't in Smallville. I don't think
I
it's a
don't
very
remember. I don't. I'm connecting things. I can't remember any of this now. I
no.
have a
Is it
very
the
weak brain.
Nixus? Nixus? Mm,
Maybe.
I
I don't
can't
know.
remember. Anyway,
Maybe you could look it up. But I was thinking, what would be our Satan army names? What would we bring to the table? What would we be renamed?
chaos,
The Satan army.
indulgence.
Poor research.
Oh yeah, lethargy.
What's your Satan army name, Matt?
Oh no, uh,
Gonna name a beer.
Keep it clean.
yeah, no,
Keep it clean.
um, oh crikey, I would go for Trident.
Ooh,
You went with a proper name.
that's a good one. Yeah, yeah. We were just shouting out
I
stupid
know.
things. You actually came up with a good one.
I'm trying to think of something drunken, and I was thinking, oh no, that's we'll
You,
go
you,
Greek or something, back in Alien or something like
yeah,
that.
you
But
sound
I
more
don't
like a
know.
Marvel hero.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh no, no, fine,
Yeah.
no, scrub that down. Scrub Trident. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
Oh
I
gosh, but
think I'll go with indulgence. I think that's a good.
oh, indulgence. Yeah,
We'd
yeah. Because
need
it's
all
got
the
to be like
seven sins
anti.
covered.
I think for our Satan army, it's got to be like anti-cult things, and indulgence is definitely not
Yeah.
something you're allowed in a
Okay.
cult, are you?
Rebellion.
Yeah, rebellion,
Intolerance.
anarchy.
Oh, intolerance. Or tolerance, maybe.
Nah. It's no fun intolerance.
Don't give
Pretty
an
much
F.
be lazy. This is lazy. She doesn't do a lot.
Yeah.
Gluttony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't just eat
Gluttony.
gruel,
She
we
eats a
eat
lot.
everything. All the burgers.
I don't see us getting 58 million in the pot in the Satan army
I
really at
don't
the
think
moment with the
no.
kind of people we're attracting.
I
I don't
suspect
see us
we
getting much free labor
yeah,
and
I
great
don't
sorts of
think we'll last
properties.
very long, but
No,
partly
I
I
don't
think
think we're
none
gonna
of us
last
will
very long
care. That's
either.
the problem.
If anyone wants to chuck some free burgers at us, though, then
Yeah,
we'll
Yeah.
happily plug.
yeah, that's it. That's it.
Quarter
How did
pounders.
you get pulled into a cult? Well, I went for a free burger. And but I mean, I'm laughing about that, but actually the terrible thing is that probably is exactly what they were doing in that garden on that
Absolutely
day,
was, wasn't it?
isn't it?
When you
And
see what they
they're
were.
very nice, making it all very nice, but yeah.
Hmm. Well, you saw that when they were on their visits down to London, weren't they? With their buses and their promises of hot tea and actually going out seeking the homeless and the ones that maybe have had a bit too much to drink or other substances or whatever. And, seeking out these people. It's almost like they were on commission or something, wasn't it? So it's yeah,
I think they
it's
were. Yeah, there
yeah,
were definitely
not good.
rewards. I think somebody would have got
Yeah.
the name top recruiter or something like that, wouldn't they?
Oh, like
Yeah.
employee of the month
I'm
kind of thing.
I'm sure in that documentary somebody did have such a name.
No.
I'm sure, there's a scene in the documentary where they are sitting around and they are saying what their names are, and that's when they get to her, and she's called Submission. But I can't remember what the others said their names were, but there was definitely something about recruiting, bringing people in, finding others like the searcher or the seeker or something like that. Gosh,
Oh,
it's really,
it's grim.
it's really, and I think what we should probably say for people who don't know what the things look like is the buses that we're talking about and the front of the old cinema when they'd converted it were all beautifully bright coloured. Like they were
Mm.
the buses were had like rainbows across the side of them, didn't they? They were rainbow
Mm.
colours and big red cross. They looked very kind of like 80s shell suit, didn't they? Effectively, they were
Yeah,
very
yeah.
like 80s, 90s, colourful, inviting you in. Like it definitely doesn't give the image of what was actually going on behind closed doors. And I think, we've established somewhat was going on behind some closed doors, but not more widely within the
Mm.
within the group, where actually there was probably lots of nice stuff going on and people feeling like they were somewhere where they belonged after a long time of feeling like they didn't.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
anything. You're going to get good and bad people everywhere. I mean, I don't think there's probably an institution that doesn't have good and bad people and stuff that, comes out eventually if they're big enough
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely.
that something's gone horribly wrong somewhere. But yeah, I think I've decided for my name, my official name for the
Okay.
Satan Army now, Lusty LaRue. I get two names. I've covered one of the deadly sins.
A Satan Army member in the week, and then on the weekends you're a burlesque artist.
Yeah.
That's what you sound like. You're going to bring back the banana dance.
That was hard work. That was having to peel a banana like that. That was hard work.
Have you heard of the banana dance, Matt? Do you know of the banana dance?
I haven't. No, please,
Like the
please,
original.
please,
So
please.
we had, who was it on talking about their book? But they were talking about the banana
Was it
dance. And
Nell? It was Nell.
Nell, wasn't it? Talking about the banana dance, and she was. It was amazing, wasn't it? Like the things that she could do. This lady with bananas, not rude, but then, and she would be dressed in bananas and dancing with bananas on her, and it was like when was it, Nicky? Was it
Oh,
about
it was in the
20s
20s
or
or
something?
30s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
It
was
was
so it,
very, very. It was because it was cabaret, wasn't it? That's what
yeah,
we
and
were
it was
talking
still
about.
rather innocent. It was a little
Yeah,
suggestive, but kind of more way less than what you'd get nowadays. But it was very much like the Carmen Miranda kind of all the fruit and
yeah,
things like that.
yeah.
So
But
it was,
she was in bananas.
yeah. And I
But
did
Nikki
my
did a
own.
whole dance around it, but with an actual
I
banana
just
that
did
she
it with
drew a
an action
face
because I
on.
said I'd do one, but I did it with a banana and I peeled it. And I
Your
had
own
another
version.
banana
So
watching, going, with a face.
yeah. So Lusty LaRue is,
Yeah, I think Lusty LaRue works.
and
I
get
think I'll
yourself
do that.
a bunch of bananas then.
Yeah, amongst other
I'll be
things.
gluttonous Gladys. That'd fit in
Gluttonous
nicely,
Gladys.
yeah.
Oh, I like that
Do
too.
you know what we sound like? Do you ever? This is definitely a reference for people who are in the 80s and 90s. But do you remember? Were they called the Dustbin Kids? And they were
Oh my God, I
cards.
don't want to be a
Do
dustbin
you
kid.
remember the Dustbin Kids cards? But
You
they
mean
were
the,
their
No.
names. Like there was definitely like a
but not
gluttonous
the
Gladys, I'm
garbage
sure.
pail. It's not
That's it. The Garbage Pail Kid. That was it.
No wonder I didn't get it. I
That
was like,
was it. Do you remember those, Matt?
No,
Am
no.
I
they're
alone in that
collectors
one?
now.
Perhaps
You've
to
given
make their
away
way
my
to
age.
Sleepy Shropshire.
Yeah.
God.
Garbage pail kids. They were straight from the US, weren't they? They were
Oh,
very
were
collectible
they?
now. Yeah, they're very
Oh, are
collectible now.
they?
Yeah.
I'll make my own then. I'll make us up some some cards for the release.
They are
That's what we need then. Maybe we need some Satan Army cards.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think we do.
Maybe, Matt, you could be Wrath. Trident Wrath.
Yeah, my three-pronged banana.
Yes. Oh my God, banana would be our official fruit. It's where we get our sponsorship from, our minimal income. Something we don't have to work
grow
for.
them. We can't even make a business out of that. We're not going to be able to.
Not
grow
over
them
here, we won't.
53 million.
Yeah. We'd be like 53 million in debt.
Yeah. We would, yeah. And our
You're like, well,
Spotify,
we've done that.
Spotify playlist would only be "We are the Satan Army. Do what you want." That would it. That'd be the whole thing.
Join
Not
us.
sort of
Don't.
nice
We're not that bothered.
Jesus Army one.
Yeah.
We don't want anything from you. Let's just have fun.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we'd be the best cult ever for probably about 3 days, and then
yeah.
declare bankruptcy.
Well, Well, also we'd be like, yeah, come join us if you want. Don't worry. I mean, you don't have to. It's up to you.
We'll fall apart after 3 days just because of general apathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one
That's
turns
my
up.
name.
Join us. We don't
Yeah.
care.
Apathy Agnes.
Just apathy, I think. I think that fits. Yeah, and also I think I feel like the Satan Army, actually what we'd be doing if people came to us feeling vulnerable is signposting them to other relative services within
Totally.
Yeah.
within the locality that they can go and get genuine help from.
Yeah. I'm going to take you to citizen's advice. Let's just figure this out. Sounds
Go
about
join
right.
someone else.
Yeah. We're going to take you to an actual group.
Let's
We'll help
refer you to another cult.
Not us. We're not going to help you.
Well, on that note, listeners and viewers, we will refer you to another cult or another podcast. Maybe. I don't know. You've had enough of this one, maybe. And we'll leave you with that. So thank you ever so much, Matt, for joining us. It's
pleasure,
very rare that we get sort of a first-person kind of view on something.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invitation.
And you're going to send us some links, Matt. So if anybody's interested in your directing or acting or your drinking, they can,
Yes.
They can find you.
But,
The drinking. Okay.
You're one of the best pub
Nice
lists in
gins and
Northampton.
whiskies, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
They can do that.
Yeah.
So Lisa, did you get your cult fix this episode, do you think?
Yeah. No, I've enjoyed researching this one.
I could see that you were going off on one to begin
I was
with.
a bit, yeah.
You were.
Like, thanks for stopping me.
That's all right.
It's been really boring.
I was in it, but I was just like, oh my God, I want to talk about that. Oh my God, she's gone past it. I want to talk about that.
Stop me. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm going to step in there. But I think we did all right. I think you did very well. It was Pod Lisa back again with a vengeance. So
That's good. I like this one.
Yeah.
I like researching this.
We'll have to come up with another cult episode, I think, at some point.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back and listen to a bit more of the Jesus Army ballads on the playlist. It was.
Oh, well.
It actually, interesting fact for you, it has 550 listens a month. So there's 550 people still listening to that each
Where's
month.
that money going?
It's true. It's true.
Mm. Well, just to remind you guys, about money, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to our podcast. You see that link there? That was good.
That was so smooth.
I know, until I pointed out, of course.
I've never seen it. Ever.
But yes, so do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. Like and subscribe. And also you'll find us on all your podcast platforms, on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there and looming in the dark, dank hole, waiting to entertain you, as we always do. And of course, we're also on social media. So follow the Red Rabbit on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And we're also on Patreon as well. I remembered everything.
Well done. That was very good.
I know. Again, until I said I remembered everything.
Until you blew it by commenting on it. One day we'll come across professional, but not today.
Not today, but it's
it.
Yeah, something to look forward to. Well, thank you ever so much, listeners and viewers, for sticking with us, and thank you, Matt, for coming along. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.